In this next tutorial, we're going to actually learn, Alex, how we can actually spin, size and shape different objects in our 3D scene that might be closest to the thing we want to make. So what we've got here is we've got a simple cube, and I'm just going to press the X and I'm going to delete the cube. What we're going to do is actually make a simple tree in this next tutorial. So if we press Ctrl and A and go to mesh, in fact I'll show you a different way of actually adding things in that you might find easier for now, but you can always use Shift and A. Add in a mesh and we've got a cylinder. So as you can see, this cylinder is our tree. I'll just reduce this down. In fact, I'll just show you this. This here actually is the way of making our cylinder more complex or less complex. So if I actually put this down to 8, as you can see, we're making the ultimate low poly model, or low poly tree. And if we shade smooth this, you can see it looks really strange. But if we put this into render mode, it looks a little bit better and might do for our low poly tree. Anyway, so let's take it back out of render mode and just back into an object mode, or the 3D render on what something is going to actually look like. So we've got our cylinder here. But if you don't want your cylinder, like I say, you can just press the X and just delete it. I'm going to open the End key here, and what we'll do is we're going to scale this down to make our tree trunk, and then scale it in the Z just like that. So we've made our simple tree trunk, G and Z, and I'm just going to move it up there. Now if we actually look at our items scaling, quite wrong, and it says 0.3, 0.3 and 0.1. So if we were to actually add a modifier to this, it wouldn't work correctly. So that's why we try to fix scale whenever possible. But what else you can do is you can actually give this specific sizes. So say I wanted my trunk 0.5 by 0.5 of a meter, and I wanted it 2 meters tall, like that. You can just enter this in there, and as you can see, the scaling is now altered from our default cylinder. And if we press the Ctrl and A, we can fix our rotation and scale, and that becomes 111. So we've got our simple tree trunk. So the next thing we want to do is make some leaves. So I'm just going to go into here. In fact, I'll do the quick key, Ctrl and A, and mesh, and I'm going to do an icosphere, just like that. G and Z, and we've got our simple tree there. And I'm just going to scale it in the Y direction, because I want my tree to look like that. And if we shade smooth this, it doesn't look as good because we're making a low poly world, so we can actually hit flat shader. So we've got a tree, let's move that, got a tree there, and of course we've got to fix the rotation and scale again, Ctrl and A, fix rotation and scale. So we've made our simple tree, but what we haven't got is we haven't got colour there. So let's just add a bit of colour. Now we've got here, we've got a thing called a material tab, so click onto that, press new, and I'm going to make a brown colour. So if brown is like an orange colour but it's darker. And there you have it. We've got our brown wood. So I'm just going to do wood. Double clicking on anything will actually change its name in here. And I'm going to make this one a greeny colour, and we'll call this leaves. So now we've got these two objects, and they're not part of each other. They are separate. So if we actually move that one, it goes over there, and say we move this one, it goes over there, which is not what we want. And as you can see, it wants icosphere and wants cylinder. So if we actually click on that one and then hold the shift button down and click on that one, as you can see, both have been selected. Right click and we can join these together. And what this does is actually puts them two object colors into this single one object, which is now the tree. So rename the tree, and now we can actually Shift and D and duplicate our tree and scale our tree to make little trees, G and Z. Now let's just add in a ground plane just to give us some perspective. Adding in a ground plane, and this of course catches the actual shadows also from our lights, and you can see if a tree is hovering up in the air. Your 9-figure pad, you can hit it to actually look from different views, like from the front, from the right. Pressing the control key and going from the front will look from the back, and of course hitting the 3 key will actually look from the right. You've also got 7 key, which looks from above, and if we press control and 7, we'd be looking from under the ground. Right, and just let's reorganize our image. So as you can see, we've made a tree. That one's a bit in the air, so I'm just going to move it down, and you'll see that G and Z, as you can see, it's moving through our ground plane to make our forest. Right, the next thing we want to do is maybe rotate this tree, because we want them to go higgledy-piggledy, and we've made different trees in our scene. Now this is quite a simple scene, but in the next tutorial I will show you how to make a more complex tree, but this is using a thing called edit mode. So what we'll do now is we'll just actually delete all our objects just to show this function. So X, and we can delete, and the tree's gone forever. X. As you can see, we've got the trees up here, and you'll see them vanish off this list. X, delete forever, and we've got one tree left. X, delete forever, and the plane is gone, and we're back to our original scene, and we can add in a mesh and our cube, and we're back to square one. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This has been another short tutorial, and in the next tutorial what we'll do is go into edit mode and figure out how to make a more complex tree. This is still going to be a low poly tree, but it's going to look that little bit better, and it will show off what we could do in edit mode. Bye for now.